Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Slow Down podcast. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Terry Tateossian, fitness and lifestyle coach, personal trainer, nutritionist, hormone specialist, emotional eating coach, and podcast host of the How Good Can It Get podcast. Terry is a successful entrepreneur. She's a mother of two teenagers and a leading advocate for healthy living. She's passionate about sharing her story of losing over 80 pounds in her mid-40s and helping empower others to make positive changes in their lives no matter the age. Welcome to Let's Slow Down, Terry.
Thank you, Anne Marie. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And I really want to get into, some basic healthy habits that we can all benefit from, that we can all try to implement right away. This episode is airing in the spring. The weather's changing. I feel like everyone kind of gets that newfound motivation to get healthy. Bathing suit season is right around the corner, and just it feels good to get moving again after a winter of hunkering down inside. So I would love to get into that today with you. But first, we talk about intentional living on this show all the time. And reading your bio and hearing your story, I just feel like you sound like someone who wanted to make some intentional changes in her life, and you did it. I mean, there's so many of us who have these dreams or these goals. Oh, I wish I could change, or I wish I could do whatever it is. And then they leave it there. They kind of live in that forever. And that is not the case with you. You went and you did it, and you made these things a reality for yourself. So I would really just love to hear a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. First of all, I love the name of your podcast
Thank you.
because that is a very difficult thing to do in this day and age with everything we have going on. And especially as women, as we get into our 30s and our 40s, things just seem to compile, right? We start to have babies, we have aging parents, more responsibility at work, more responsibility at home, and our own health, our own mental well-being, our own image of ourselves kind of takes a back burner while we are so busy doing all those other things.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really important to intentionally slow down and build some space in our day, even if it's 2 to 5 minutes, to just breathe. And that's where I found myself by the age of 37, where I was burning the candle, not just on both sides, but on every side. Front, back, left, right. I was burning the candle on every side. And what I find is that a lot of women that are high achievers, that are kind of, for lack of a better word, type A personalities, who are ambitious, who are resilient and resourceful, a lot of times end up in that place, especially if they're juggling a career and a family all at the same time, which is what I was doing. I had started my own business in my late 20s. So by my late 30s, it was going full swing. I wanted to have children. And so my first child I had at 30, my second at 35. So if you can imagine what that was like, there was not a moment in the day that I had space to breathe. There was no time to plan anything that concerned me specifically, right? So everything else took priority.
Mhm.
I was eating whatever would come my way. I did not have any intentional plan on what to eat, how much to eat, whether it was good for me. As long as it would just keep me satiated, I was fine. I did not have any intentional plan or time in the day to for physical activity. So those two things paired together eventually created a perfect storm where I was extremely stressed, extremely burned out from every angle, from every side. I became extremely overweight. I started having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, chest pains. I was starting to be pre-diabetic, and lots of things were just going in a really bad direction personally for me, while everything else was going in a really great direction because that's what I was focused on. That's where all my intentions were
Hmm.
directed, right? And so I found myself by the age of 37 with two hospitalizations, pre-diabetic markers, heart palpitations, a heart murmur, just difficulty going up the stairs. I was 210 pounds at the time, and I was 5'3". And so that was considered, I think I did a body scan once and it said 50% body fat. So if you can imagine, that is not good for you.
Hmm.
You know, your body does not like to carry that much extra weight. And it starts, all the different systems in your body start to have symptoms of tear and wear, right?
Hmm.
So if I can equate that to a car, a four-door sedan, and you need to drive this car every day, let's say 50, 60 miles, and instead of just driving the car as it is, you use it as a dump truck and you start carrying 2 times the load that it's supposed to carry. Eventually that car is going to break down. So that's where I found myself. And I had to figure out, you know, how do I change this? What do I do? Because if I continue on this path, my car is going to collapse.
Wow. So what did you do? Like, how did you, because really you're talking, this was like 10 years ago or so, right? A little over 10 years ago. So how did you start? How did you make these actionable changes in a way that were sustainable and, just realistic in your life? Because you were certainly, and you still are, a busy person.
A lot of trial and error was the initial approach, right? So I tried everything, and everything that was out there that I saw in the media, and this is what not to do actually. And so I would see some kind of a diet out there. Everybody was losing weight, so I would hop on that bandwagon and I would go at that diet as hard as I could. I probably have done over 30 different diets. I can tell you all about them, but I don't think that's not a good, not the right way to go. I did not understand nutrition at the time. Nobody teaches us this stuff. We go to school for so many years and they don't, I mean, I learned recently that they don't even teach medical doctors much about.
I've heard that too. It blows my mind.
Yes. And so how the heck are we supposed to know this stuff, right? And nobody, definitely no, nobody cares about teaching us that. So I didn't know any better. So I was doing all kinds of starvation diet, malnutrition diets. I would only eat salads, or I would only eat celery sticks, or I would only eat fruit. So there's all kinds of crazy diets out there. I read somewhere that there's 40,000 diet books on Amazon, all written by
Wow.
gurus out there
Hmm.
that are telling you to eat, two Brazilian nuts every day if you want to fix your thyroid. Meanwhile, nutrition is a very complicated, nuanced type of bio-individual type of thing. And so what applies to one person may not necessarily apply to another person. And so I struggled a lot the first few years, and then I realized that I need to ask for help. Like this is not working out because every time I lost a couple of pounds, like let's say I was 210, I would get down to 180, and as soon as I got off the diet, it would come right back plus some, right? And so I was like, this is not working. Diets are making me gain more weight. And so I asked for help. I asked the holistic doctor and I hired a coach. And the coach taught me about resistance training and nutrition. And so if there's only two things that you have the time to invest into, to learn more about, to educate yourself about, it's those two things, right? strength training with progressive overload, specifically weightlifting, and nutrition. How to structure your meals so that you are in a caloric deficit without being in a dietary malnutrition deficit. And so little by little, day by day, I started studying these two subjects. And I was guided by a coach. I've actually had a coach for the last 8 years, and I was so inspired and so passionate. I became so passionate about this because I struggled so much for so long. And getting this type of help actually changed my life. I became a coach. So I dived into that all the way as far as weight training, nutrition, and mindset was concerned. And so those would be the two things I would recommend that every woman should educate herself on that.
I love it. I love that you asked for help. I think a lot of us, I don't know if we forget to do that or we think we don't need it or we feel like we can't afford it. There's so many factors I feel like that go into play, but you know, you put yourself first and you because you had to, and by putting yourself first, you're helping everybody around you, your business, your family, everybody. So it's I think just a really being a great role model for the people around you by doing that. And I say this to to my family all the time. Like, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. It doesn't matter how good you are, how much money you have, and how smart you are, what your grades are, whatever. If you're not healthy, you can't do much. So, I just feel like in our fast-paced world and our fast food and just everything on the go, health does really take, I mean, we get hammered sometimes and we forget. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you end up in this position where it's scary and you've got to really make some changes. So if we can learn a few lessons from your story, all the better. Just these little things that we can incorporate. I feel like we hear so much about the weight training and resistance training, and so many, me included, like I try to do it, but it's hard. It's hard to get into a consistent routine. But, keep hearing how important that is, especially as we do get older. And then you mentioned nutrition as well as mindset. So I feel like maybe we can dive into those three little aspects for a few minutes. And if you have any helpful tips, and obviously it is so, as you said, individualized, and all of our bodies are so different, and we need different things. Um, but those three pieces were the secret for you, and really just figuring those out. So I don't know, let's speak to weight training for just a couple minutes. Like, are there some resources you can recommend, or maybe some, books or whatever? I know YouTube is popular. What's like a resource or two that you could recommend for people who are interested in learning more, incorporating this, and just aren't really sure how to?
So weight training and creating a program for weight training is a very individualized type of approach. There's a lot of nuance in that, right? So there's not really a one size fits all type of approach to creating a program for somebody. There's an evaluation that a good personal trainer would put you through. There's experience level. There's taking injuries into account. There is different levels of where you can start, whether you've been an athlete in the past or you've never been an athlete like me, which I was never athletic. I never did any sports. And so there are different starting places for each individual. My suggestion is that the same way that people invest into therapy, people invest into other service providers, that at least once in your life, you hire a personal trainer, a good one, that is going to give you a program or give you some direction individually based on where you're at and help you progress forward. It doesn't need to be anything wildly expensive, right? It can be once a month kind of check-in. It doesn't need to be so blown out of proportion that you feel overwhelmed. Their job really is to meet you where you're at. The only point about weight training is just to do it. So however you feel comfortable, many of my clients start out working out at home with two dumbbells. And that's enough to progress them forward into month 2 and 3 and 4. And then by the time month 6 comes, my women want to go to the gym every day. And then there's some days I put in rest days and I get comments like, why do I have a rest day? I want to go to the gym. And so it becomes this type of activity that makes you feel amazing. It makes you feel really good. It helps you get stronger. It helps you develop muscular strength, right? And having muscle mass on your body is one of the best things you could do for yourself health-wise. There's many studies out there that outline that having appropriate, adequate muscle mass is actually better than any pharmaceutical drug out there in terms of helping you with a lot of different conditions and preventing a lot of different conditions. And so when I say strength training, I don't mean Pilates, I don't mean yoga, I don't mean walking, I don't mean running. I mean literal resistance training with weights where your goal is to get stronger every week and every month or month to month, right? So I just want to make sure that that does not get conflated with other activities. Now, yoga, Pilates, and all those things are great as well for mobility, stability, flexibility, etc. They're not the same though. So I just want to make that very clear because I see a lot of women go to Pilates every single day for an hour and never do any strength training. And so, and they say, well, I don't have time for that.
Hmm.
You do.
And I
You're
think a lot of us get confused. Like a lot of us, I mean, I know, and I feel like I've learned a lot over the years, but it used to be like, oh, if you go run for a half hour, an hour every day, like all the cardio and all these other things, that was kind of shoved down our throats for a long time. And I think, the message has changed over the last few years, but the one piece that tends to be missed sometimes is this strength training, or people associate it with like these like giant muscular men in a gym, and it's not, it could be that, but that's not what you're saying here. So, um, my other question, as you're talking, I'm thinking, I think another thing that people don't realize is that it doesn't necessarily have to take like hours and hours and hours, right?
correct. Absolutely. So if you do have somebody that you're working with, you can give that person parameters. You can say, month 1, I only have 45 minutes. And they will create a program for you that's just 45 minutes. If, there's some days you have a little bit more time, then, that can be adjusted as well. But it does not need to be a big production. You don't even need to do it in the gym. The first, I think, 4 years I was weightlifting, I did it in my garage with a barbell, a couple of plates, and some dumbbells. And I saw incredible results immediately. Your body just loves that challenge. We're made to be physical, right? And instead, in this day and age, we spend 90% of our time sitting down and doing nothing physical.
Hmm.
And so your body will respond very quickly. It will embrace the challenge and pair that with the proper nutrition. It's magic.
I love it. How quickly did you start to see and feel? Actually, I think I'm more after how you felt. Like when did you start? Because you were coming from a place, as a lot of people are, where you're really not healthy. And you said, you were dragging, you didn't feel good. So in the beginning, I'd imagine, and you also mentioned you weren't an athlete before. So all these new things, you start lifting weights. I am sure your body was screaming in the beginning. I know, throughout different periods of my life, like especially after having each child, trying to get back into shape was so hard in the very beginning because it just, you realize how out of shape you are. That's kind of defeating mentally. But also, you go, you do a great workout, you're focused, and then the next day you are sore. So sometimes I would be like, oh, I'm so sore. Then I can't work out for a few days. And then I try to do it again and I got sore again. And then just, it would kind of fade out because I would just lose that motivation. So, how quickly did you start to notice it? And how'd you get over that hump? Because I'd imagine that was there in the beginning.
Mhm. So this is another reason to have a trainer, right? So if you're a complete beginner, It's very easy to knock yourself out of the game in the first week because of massive soreness. Right. And so if you have a great trainer, they're not going to work you to that point. I mean, yes, can it happen where, you have a really intense workout and then you can't walk for the next 4 days? It's happened to me. Yes. I've had days when I couldn't sit down on the toilet. So, I mean, that was a struggle. And
Yeah.
um, that's the hardest part in the very beginning. Now, the key here is to know where you're starting from and then to only work you to a point where it's manageable so that you're not putting yourself out of commission the next day. The other thing is when you're working with someone that knows what they're doing, they're not going to have you train the same muscle groups every single day. So you will have rest period in between, let's say, doing your lower body to doing the next session of your lower body, which will be maybe 3 days later, right? But in between, you would just do upper body and so on and so on. And you kind of rotate which part of the body you're working on different days so that you can kind of go through the entire body in 1 week rather than just doing your quads every single day. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely does. So, did you feel like you started to feel better really fast? Like you said, you kind of felt like immediate results. Like how quickly would you say you started to feel better?
Well, the first month that I did things the right way, I lost 8 pounds. And I was shocked because I was eating a lot of food. So, as far as the nutritional aspect of this, when you start following a macro-based nutrition plan, everything is broken down based on macronutrients, right? So I have to hit certain targets for my protein per day, a certain number of carbs, and a certain number of fats or lipids per day. And that number was broken up into 5 meals. So when I started out, I literally, and this is what I do with all of my clients, is you eat 5 times a day and they're nutritious whole foods because there's a certain framework that you have to meet when you're eating based on macronutrition. And so I was eating all day long, right? And a lot of times what actually happens in reality is that as women, we're taught to do a lot of cardio and not eat as much. So when I start working with somebody, they come to me eating 900 calories a day and doing an hour of cardio every day. And so their metabolism is just not functioning most as optimally as it could be, and it ends up that, just eating 1,200 calories a day is too much food for them when it's whole foods, right?
Hmm.
And so when you're eating things like zucchini and asparagus and broccoli and cauliflower, sweet potato, potatoes, lean chicken breast and lean ground beef and cod and salmon and things like that, the portions are much bigger than if when you're eating packaged foods or protein bars or protein shakes and things like that. And the volume is a lot larger in the actual meal. And so when I started out, I could barely eat 1,500 calories of whole foods per day. So I was very full and could barely finish my meals each day. And so a lot of the thoughts in my mind were, oh, this is never going to work. I'm just eating so much food. I feel
Hmm.
so full, right? And then at the end of the month, I was down 8 pounds. And then the next month, I was down 8 pounds. And then again and again. And I lost 80 pounds like that.
Wow.
Hmm.
Amazing. It's I've gotten away from a lot of the processed stuff, a ton, and I've kind of switched the kids over and the family over a bit as well. I mean, they still eat some stuff that's packaged, but I just can't get over after a while, you don't miss it. You don't miss that other stuff. It actually, if you have it, it really tastes very fake, I think. And I just can't get over how much better it makes you feel. Like it really does. It helps with your mind. It helps with, I think, your obviously your body. Just your stomach, everything feels better. So there is so much to this. I mean, what do they say when you're in the grocery store? Like really kind of stay out of those middle aisles for the most part, right? Like you stay on both ends. It's more fresh stuff and foods that don't have labels and things like that. So I think there's so much power in that alone. Just making that switch, you can start to notice these things so quickly. And I was thinking when you were talking about the five meals and things like that. What's like two of your favorite healthy meals that you eat, like that you eat all the time that are easy?
So this is the other, this is a great question because a lot of women make the assumption that they need to be all different meals every day, right? So we've been conditioned to think that we have to eat different things all the time. That's not true, right?
I have given up on that because I used to think that too, and I'm like, I just can't do it. It's too much work. So I try to repeat.
Exactly. So the key, though, is creating meals that you love, creating meals that you look forward to eating, but still staying within the framework of how many calories, how much protein, how many carbs, and how much fat in each meal and pre-planning your food in advance, right? So preparing just the way that you would prepare for an event or a wedding or whatever, birthday party or whatever it may be. Think of your life as this big event, right? What do you need to do in order to prepare for a successful event, which is your life?
Mhm.
And so, my favorite foods that I eat daily, and I don't get sick of them. And if I do, I slightly vary them with different fruits or different flavor or whatever it may be, is usually a yogurt parfait, right? So 0% fat-free Greek yogurt with a little bit of protein powder. They sell peanut butter protein powder that is just peanuts smashed into powder with a little bit of coffee. I throw an espresso shot into my yogurt and I sprinkle it with blueberries, strawberries, etc. And that's a sweet little treat. I eat that every day. Another thing I eat every day is an egg white omelet. That's my second breakfast. And so I dress it up and with all these different vegetables and a piece of toast if it's my pre-workout. So that's another point here is the starchy foods are best eaten before and after you strength train because that's when your body absorbs those nutrients most optimally, right? You don't want to kind of avoid them at the very end of the day when you are going to sleep because those type of carbohydrates are really best used for energy. And when you're going to sleep, eating a big bowl of pasta is not really required, right, for sleep. You don't need much energy.
Probably not.
And so timing of the meals is very interesting as well, knowing when to eat certain things for most optimal energy consumption, right? And so I eat that every day. I love Ninja Creamies. Right? So there's a machine out there called the Ninja Creamy. You can pre-make your own ice cream batter with yogurt, cottage cheese, milk, some protein powder, or whatever flavor you want to put into it. Freeze it overnight, and then the next day you throw it into the machine and it makes an ice cream
Mm.
that is 250 calories. That's a big one too, like a big pint of it, right? For 250 calories as opposed to a big Haagen-Dazs for 1,400 calories, right? And so things like that. So over time, I have found ways to create substitutions for foods that I love. Pizza, for example. There's lots of companies out there that are making cauliflower pizza that you can just
Hmm.
purchase that and have it delivered to your home. You can make your own cauliflower pizza if you like, right? So there's lots of different intelligent ways of still eating things you love, but keeping down the fat, the carbs, and protein. Obviously, you want to be eating protein. But keeping out the things you're not maybe contributing to the goals that you've set for yourself. Now, your goals could be different things too, right? There have women that need to gain weight. that are underweight, that are under muscle. There's women that need to lose weight. There are women that just want to maintain their current strength and their current weight. So it's all relative to where you're at. But yeah.
I love that. Good lessons, good things to think about. And I think I've seen that Ninja Creamy on like some kind of Facebook ad or something, but I have not actually ever tried it. So now I'm curious. And let's talk about that final piece that you had mentioned earlier and mindset and really I'd like to tie that into, the slowing down and not jumping into something like this and just like going full force and then being totally over it, exhausted, burnt out by like the second week because of all the things. So, um, and also, I was asking you earlier before we hit record, you do these retreats in Tennessee, which I'd love to hear a little bit about those as well. And just they're relaxing, they're calming. So how that slowing down piece, that de-stressing piece can really benefit to all of our well-being and our health.
Yeah, so that was the first step that I had to unlearn, is how to stop being so busy
Hmm.
all the time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I was busy, and unbusying myself was very uncomfortable, which I found to be very interesting when I first observed this particular behavior and this discomfort that I had with having too much free time. And I realized that, or when I had free time, I had to immediately find a way to busy myself because it made me uncomfortable. And through a lot of learning and reading and starting to become more aware, I realized that this particular behavior is considered self-sabotage, really. When we say yes to everything, we don't have clear boundaries, we are uncomfortable with not being busy, and our main goal is to people please, right? And so those are classic self-sabotaging type of behaviors, and they keep us stuck. They keep us from moving forward towards a goal or a dream or whatever it might be that is just for us personally. And so my advice usually is, if you notice or you become aware of this type of behavior, one of the first steps is to start kind of observing it, right? Asking yourself some questions on, what is it that I'm trying to avoid by always saying yes to everything? What is it that I'm trying to avoid by always people pleasing everyone around me at my own expense, at my own happiness? And why is it that everything else comes ahead of me, but I can't somehow find 30 minutes in the day to do a quick workout that I know is going to make me feel good for the rest of the day and into tomorrow? And I can't do that consistently every day. I don't have 30 minutes a day to do that. So really ask yourself, is it true? Is it true that you don't have 30 minutes a day?
Hmm.
Or is that what the negative thoughts in your mind are doing and pulling you in a million different directions, where maybe you can just say no to one of those things and help yourself feel better, right? And so it's a snowball effect. The more you say yes, the more people depend on you, the more they pull you in 100 directions, and the more you keep saying yes, and then eventually you're the one that's burning out, and you're the one that's suffering. And so that's one of the first things I had to learn is stop it. Like just
Yeah, it's a hard one. And you know what I've heard? I think about this a lot, and I've had a few different people come on the show and talk about this, just like as you're saying, the saying yes and what that snowballs and leads into all these extra responsibilities and everything else. Well, in saying yes, you are indirectly saying no to something else. So in saying yes to that additional thing, you might be saying no to having good health. And when you look at it like that, you're not going to say no to good health. So it helps kind of put things in perspective. Okay, that whatever that party or that helping out at that event isn't as important as the good health. So,
And if you are, then why?
right.
Why are you
Hmm.
saying no to your own health? And a lot of people go through these types of experiences. I did for many years. And the answer is because you, for whatever reason, have this belief that you don't deserve it. It's not going to work for you. It doesn't matter. And that you're not that important, right? Everything
Yeah.
else is more important than you are. And so that's the underlying answer. Because if if health was important, then we would all be saying yes. But we already know health is important. We already know what we need to do. We don't need anybody to tell us to eat better and move our bodies. We know that, right?
Hmm.
Not a secret. Everybody at this point knows that being
Right.
overweight is going to pull you in the wrong direction, but we still don't do it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not about knowing what to do or what we need to do. It's really about what is keeping us from doing it. And it's not knowledge. It's that underlying belief and that old pattern of thinking we don't matter, nobody cares, it's not going to work, we don't have time, we have more important things to do. And think about that statement. I have more important things to do than take care of my own health. That's what you're really saying.
Yeah. Yeah. When you put it that way, it's like people, it's hits you a little differently.
Yeah, so there's a lot of mindset work that goes into changing your lifestyle,
Hmm.
and a lot of things that you have to become aware of and that I had to become aware of, and they shocked me. I was so blind to my own behavior. Like, for example, I would do really well for 6, 7, 8 months. I would lose a ton of weight. Everything would be going great. I would just be slamming, dunking it. I was so proud of myself. And then one day I just wake up and I face plant into a massive jar of Nutella. And it's like, oh, who cares? What? Like, what's the point? It's like, wait a minute. Where did that come from? Right? And so when you start observing that kind of behavior over time, you go, wait a minute, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense.
Yeah. Makes no sense, but I'm sure every single person, myself included, is like, yeah, I've done that and I get that. So it's human.
hmm it's essentially the habit or the old pattern of coping with things is still there.
Hmm.
Right. And so when you start a new habit or a new lifestyle or a new behavior pattern, it takes a while for it to kind of assimilate into your neural pathways, into your brain. And so the old behavior sometimes will rear its ugly head out once in a while and trip you up. And a lot of times people quit when that happens. But the trick is expect it, expect that it's going to happen. Be vigilant to observe, like, what are the triggers that have this, I call it the boogeyman, because it just pops out of nowhere.
Hmm. It's a
Food,
good,
you
it's a good
know?
word for it. Yeah.
And so like I wait for it, and over time I learn like, hey, this kind of emotional trigger gets me to eat emotionally. And I'm not going to pretend like it's never going to happen. If I'm sure, because I've been doing it for 48 years, I'm sure it's going to pop in
Some
sometime.
point.
And I'm prepared, right? So now I've learned that don't chance it. Have the food that you're going to go for prepared where it won't make a difference. So like if you go after ice cream, then make yourself an ice cream, a protein ice cream, keep it in the fridge, and that's your go-to. If your go-to is pizza and you face dive emotionally into a pie of pizza, then have something in the freezer that's a cauliflower pizza and maybe the whole pie is just 300 calories and you're not really going to be that much off course.
Right.
Um, but believing that it's never going to happen and this time you're going to white knuckle your way through it and you can willpower your way through it, sure, for a certain amount of time, but there will be a point where things might get rocky and just so prepare for that rather than quitting.
Mhm. I love that. That it's very, very good. Just lessons for life, right? Just with everything. And just be prepared for it. Things do happen. I mean, that is the definition of life. Like we cannot plan everything, nor do we want to, or should we. But um, oh, these are just really great things to think about. And you're very inspiring. So
Thank
as we wrap up, I do want to hear for a minute how you started these retreats that you do in Tennessee.
So I was so inspired by my entire, it was, I mean, it was those 10 years of figuring my stuff out. And it was so transformative. It was so cathartic, really. I mean, my entire existence changed when I realized I was the problem, right? I was the problem. I was creating these problems for myself every single day and learning how to undo that and unpack that and learning how to move forward, it changed everything. My entire purpose in life changed. I found joy in showing other women they can do the same thing, that it is possible. And I'm a slow learner, so if I can do it, if I can do this, really anybody can do it. I mean, 10 years, Anne Marie. It took me 10 years. And so I started doing these retreats in Tennessee where, we wake up, we do yoga, we strength train, we discuss nutrition, we eat the types of meals that are really going to make us feel good in the long run and give us the proper energy. We do Pilates, go on hikes, we get massages, facials, things like that, and we build a community of women that are on the same path, that are looking for a better way to live, and they want to show up for this big event, which is their life, and they want to show up really with like all the glam, right? And all the strength and courage to be there. And so we do that once a month. Most of them for 2025 are almost sold out. We are now opening up 2026, most likely next month for anyone that's interested. But yeah, that's how it started. And now it's my mission and passion and purpose in life, really.
Very cool. And I love, you've said it a couple times during this interview, the big event, which is your life. We forget that. Like, we totally forget that. The big event is not the one night that's a 4 hour thing that we, act like it's the end of the world. The big event is the everyday and it's the life, right? We need to show up for this and show up for ourselves and allow ourselves to do that. Like, give ourselves the permission to do that. So, um, what a great message you have and you are sharing. It's fantastic, Terry. As we wind down, I love to ask all of my guests, what is your favorite way to slow down these days?
Oh, hmm. So, it's gonna, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. I love going to the gym. Lifting weights is my slowdown because there's nothing else in my mind in during that time. I'm just focused. It's just me. It's the bar or the dumbbell or whatever it is. And I'm just thinking about that. There's nothing else. I can barely even count, okay, during a set. I forget my numbers. That's how mind clearing It is. And it's almost like a meditation for me. Makes me feel good. I feel really strong. I am stronger now at 48 years old than I have ever been in the past. The numbers that are showing up on my barbell, I have never seen them before. Now, I am fully menopausal since the age of 42. So I have been in menopause for 6 years. And if you read any of the literature out there, I should not be able to do the things that I'm doing. I should not look the way that I look, and I should not be able to lift much weight because we're supposed to be frail and in decline, especially 6 years into menopause, because, oh, all our hormones are gone, right? Isn't that the story?
Hmm.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, that's not true. And so that's my favorite thing.
That is amazing. That is amazing. You are really just very inspiring, very inspiring.
Thank
And
you.
just the picture of energy, I can tell, and I will put this episode on the YouTube channel as well so people can watch it and see, but you can just tell that you radiate energy and positivity and that you really are living your purpose. And uh, I don't know, we don't meet people like that too often. So what an
Oh, thank you.
inspiration you are.
I am absolutely thrilled, thrilled, thrilled to be here at this
Where
event.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. Hopefully we can all start to think, how can we all say that about our own big event, our own lives, right? I mean, that's it. That is the main point. So where can everybody find you, Terry? I will link everything in the show notes.
I only have two places because that's all I have attention span.
Perfect. We like simple.
Instagram, how good can it get? Because that's what I ask myself every day is how much better can I get, right? Every day. And then the other place is my website. It's thehouseofrose.com. Everything is on there, retreat dates, coaching, everything.
All right. And I should mention, as we wind down, we were talking about Tennessee, but we have a lot of local listeners. So Terry is actually from New Jersey as well, not far from me. So Clinton, New Jersey. So any local listeners, you can work with Terry in person actually, because she is right here as well. We don't often have New Jerseyans on the show. So
Come on, New Jersey. I know you got this. All right. I know
yeah,
you guys have
yeah.
it.
Terry, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Anne Marie. It was an absolute pleasure.